Hello, and welcome back to the Building a Clear Authentic Brand podcast. I'm your host, Amy Dardis, and today we're diving into the first pillar of the Clear Authentic Brand framework, clarity, and why it's the foundation that changes everything else in your business. So just as a reminder, the framework to build a clear, authentic brand is comprised of 3 pillars: clarity, alignment, and accountability. And they all build on top of each other. And so today we're focusing on clarity, and that is the first foundational piece. And we cannot have alignment and accountability without first having clarity. Clarity has been a blessing and a burden in my life. And it is something that I have experienced firsthand, the powers of destructiveness in not having it, as well as the blessing that comes from really getting it dialed in and seeing how it comes to life in every aspect of our business. So clarity for me is something that I struggled with a lot in my brand because I didn't have it, first of all. So let's just be real honest and transparent about that. We started our business not knowing really what we were doing. We launched a web design and marketing agency, and we were young. I mean, we were in our early 20s when we first started our business and had no idea of what it required to run a business or be in business or how to set ourselves apart as a brand. And I think in conjunction with that, being in our early 20s, we really didn't know ourselves very well. We were just young. I feel like most of my 20s I spent trying to figure out who I was. And I feel like who we are as individuals absolutely plays a role into how we show up in business. So we spent most of our 20s figuring out life, figuring out ourselves, figuring out our marriage, figuring out business. And sometimes that's just how it goes. I think that's very normal, but there's a lot of lessons learned along the way. So for us, building our business, creating our brand was a lot of looking at what other people are doing. And that seems very normal, right? That's sounds logical and reasonable to look at what everybody else is doing, look at what your competitors are doing. And in the web design and marketing space, there's a lot to look at. It's easy to go online and search up different agencies because they're all online. That's the space that we're in. And we joined mastermind groups and we were a part of communities. So we actually got to build relationships with other web agency owners and get to know them and ask questions and learn from them to see like what were they doing within their business? How were they niching down? What were they offering? What were they focusing on? But a part of that struggle was also just like this battle of, well, what makes sense for us? I mean, because I believe that God has this path for us for now in this season. And we can't just do what everybody else is doing. And we can't just do something because, oh, you can make the most money at doing this. There needs to be intentionality and gifting and alignment within the way that you choose to operate and go to market. So we went back and forth all the time between, do we want to be a web development company or do we want to be a marketing company? Do we want to run campaigns for people or do we want to help people host and maintain and develop their websites? Or do we want to do a combination of both? Do we want to help small service-based businesses? Do we want to help nonprofits? Do we want to help bigger businesses with bigger budgets? And there were a lot of questions because there were a lot of different paths we could go down, and we went down almost all of those. We helped small businesses, we helped nonprofits, we helped bigger businesses with bigger budgets. We did marketing and ads and tried to outsource, and we tried to do everything in-house, and all of these different combinations of things. And it ended up, I think, stalling our growth in a lot of ways because we didn't know what to do. And because of that, every time we made a decision and a choice, it put us back a few steps, right? Because it's like, okay, let's try this. And then we would go down this road but when you start over, it's a learning curve. It's something new that you have to figure out. It's a new service. It's a new market. It's a new strategy. And every strategy takes time. There's nothing about business, I think, that goes very fast. And we would get discouraged because we wouldn't see the fruit of our efforts very quickly. But also there just wasn't always a peace about it either. And the question was always like, well, are we missing something? Is this what we should be doing? Should we really be doing something else? Like, this makes sense and the numbers add up, but it just doesn't feel right. I don't have peace about it. So let's go back to this other thing that we were doing, because that felt better. And this was like the trajectory of our business for a good 10 years, probably through most of our 20s, of trying different things. And every time we tried something new, it meant we were redoing our messaging, we were redoing our websites, we were rewriting our offers, we were rewriting our processes, we were relaunching a campaign over and over and over and over again. And that led to burnout, overwhelm, frustration. And the more you do that, the more you lose your confidence. Like we did it so many times. We pivoted and changed so many times that we just lost sight of who we were or what we were supposed to be doing. And we lost confidence in our own ability to make a decision and then be consistent with it, because we lacked this foundational piece, this clarity that I have learned is the key to working with for a business to be successful, because it really does lay the foundation for every single thing that you do. And so when I say it's been a blessing and a curse, or a burden, I guess, I feel like curse is a strong word, but it's something that I have felt the pain of a lack of clarity so intensely to my very core, to my very being, of not having clarity in my business, not having clarity in myself as an individual, not having clarity in my vision and in my purpose. And to be honest, like, not having clarity in my very identity, like, who am I and what am I doing and what am I good at? And do I even have what it takes to do this? I feel like a failure all the time because I'm constantly starting and stopping and trying this and trying that, and I'm getting nowhere. And in reality, we were progressing, we were gaining clients, we were getting new projects, but it didn't feel good. It didn't feel like a win. It didn't feel like success. It just felt like we were always grinding. Like, no matter what we did, it was always a struggle. And we just kept repeating work over and over and over again that we shouldn't have had to keep repeating. But at the same time, we were helping these businesses with their marketing and their messaging and their websites. And I just got to experience this firsthand, where we would sit down with a client and ask them their story and ask them about their business and their history and their customers and what made them unique and what set them apart and how they operated and what they offered and who their ideal customer was and what that process looked like and what that journey looked like. And just, we had this very thorough and deep discovery process. And I genuinely love that part of it. So that wasn't painful or hard at all. That was truly the joy of getting to work with businesses, was listening to their story and then helping them tell it. And they would come to us not having clarity in their own brand either. They had a website that was outdated, or it didn't make sense, or it was just, there was no clear messaging, there was no clear strategy to it, and it wasn't working. It wasn't generating leads. They knew it didn't represent them fully the way that it needed to. And so when I would sit down and be like, well, what do you want your website to accomplish? What do you want it to do for you? They would be like, oh, I want it to help me generate leads. I want it to represent us accurately. I want it to help us like build credibility and authority. And I want to attract like more of the right type of customer, and for people to be clear on what it is that we do and how we can help them. And so we would go through this discovery process and find this message, this like the simplest, most efficient way to articulate their brand. And then we would write the content, and we would lay out the website and design it and put that messaging into it. And we would send it to them, and they would love it. They would just be like, wow, like this is amazing. Like this looks so good. It makes sense. It's so much better than we had before. And we'd be like, yeah, that's awesome. Like that's exactly what we want for you. And then we would launch it, and we would continue to host and maintain. So we'd continue to like check in and do updates for them and stuff. And so that relationship continued. And we would hear from them like, wow, like my website works, and people are filling out the forms, and they're calling us, and they're finding us online. And it was really amazing to be able to do this for our clients, and I felt confident in that. Like we felt confident in what we could do for our clients, but I did not feel that same confidence in my own business, in like being able to do it for myself. And the biggest difference was this clarity piece, because I didn't have me doing for myself what I was able to do for my clients. And this ended up being the biggest key piece in why we felt stuck, but we were able to actually help these clients and these businesses generate more leads. And they didn't come back to us every 6 months saying, oh, it's not right, I need to redo my website. I mean, we've had websites for over 10 years that, outside of a few updates here and there, we have never gone back and had to revamp or remessage things, because it has stayed true to who they are, because we laid that very strong foundational piece, and we went through the process, and we clarified all of the elements, and we implemented it well into their website and their messaging. Now, this discovery process has developed over the years. So I would say, in full disclosure, like when we first started building websites at the early beginning, I didn't have all this knowledge and understanding of a business and all of the elements that needed to come into play. But year after year, the more I understood business as a whole, and marketing and sales and operations, and the more I developed and grew in that, the better and better we got at our discovery process, and the better and better we were able to create these sites for our clients. Because there actually were some clients where we had built their websites way early on, years and years ago, that over time I had further developed this discovery process, and then I actually went back and redid it with them, and we ended up coming out with some better messaging, and we did end up revamping their site a little bit. So full disclosure there, I haven't always been great at discovery or brand clarity. So what ended up happening in our own business is I finally got so burnt out, so tired of myself, just so sick of being able to do something for other clients, which I'm so thankful I was able to do that for them. But I was just disgusted with myself in not being able to do it for my own brand, because the truth is, doing it for your own brand is the hardest thing. It's trying to see the forest through the trees. It's trying to read the label from the inside of the bottle. Like, it's just very difficult because you're not unbiased. You have all of these voices inside of your head. It's easy to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And there's not this like person telling you, hey, objectively, these are the things. Like, it's easier to see strengths in other people than it is to see strengths in ourselves. And it comes to that same struggle when we're trying to like brand our business and say, like, it's harder to see our own brand's strengths and uniqueness and the reason why we should be doing what we're doing. It's harder to define that than it is to look at another brand and see what they're good at and what sets them apart and what makes them unique. And it's, it's perspective, but it's because we're in it. We're in it. And it's hard to step outside of that and see the big picture. And so that's why it helps to work with a professional. It helps to work with a web design agency or a branding firm, just for them being able to sit down and look at you and saying, this is what keeps coming to the surface. Because the brand, your brand, it exists. Whether you can define it or articulate it or not, it exists. And so for our own brand and our own process, I had to sit down and I had to, one, quiet all of the noise and the distractions in my life. So honestly, I got off social media. I unsubscribed from all the emails that would go into my inbox from business experts and marketers and influencers. I got away from all of the things that could cloud my judgment and drown out my own thoughts and my own voice and my own reflections. And I took time, and I wanted it to take a couple of days, and it took weeks. The process of just quieting my mind and quieting my soul and letting God really speak to me in that process, because the truth is, He created me. He formed me. He knitted me together. He did that for my husband. He made us uniquely on purpose and for a purpose. He gave us our unique gifting. He gave us our passions. He gave us our family. He put us in specific places and specific times. He brought specific relationships and people into our life that shaped our journey. It shaped our experiences. It shaped our perspectives. It developed us. We went through seasons that developed us in a way that other people have not been through. They've been through their own seasons. They've been through their own obstacles and ways of being formed, because there's intention, there's plan, there's a purpose. And so when I was looking at myself and my business, I was like, okay, God has brought us through these things for this reason. I can't be someone that I'm not. God has given me experience with small businesses, not these huge mega businesses. That just wasn't the path that God gave me. He gave me experiences with these small, people-driven, service-based businesses. I'm not here to talk about e-commerce or online businesses or corporate businesses. That's not the experience that God gave me. He gave me this experience. And so I had to sit down and I wrote out my story. I wrote out my life of, going from being a high schooler to being an entrepreneur to what I experienced as an employee in other businesses, and really dove into like why I went through those things and what I learned through these different experiences and how that shaped me and how that planted seeds and how that developed me, and how God intended us to use these experiences, use these gifts, use these passions for the business that He intended for us to have. And so that I went through this process of really writing everything out, going through my own process that I implement with clients, and really feeling the difference, feeling the peace and the foundation that comes from knowing, like, without a doubt, okay, this is why I do what I do. This is who I believe that God calls me to help. This is how I operate. This is what I value. This is how we're going to do business. This is how we can make a difference. And writing that out and then experiencing the difference in my messaging and my brand. And I was able to write all this out. And then the beauty of it is I knew exactly what needed to go on my website. I knew exactly what needed to go into my like sales messaging and marketing messaging, and the types of clients I needed to work with and speak to. And that's what creates this foundation. Is it really does determine every single thing that you're going to do after that. And that will be next week's episode, is going through this alignment piece of how do we take this clarity, this brand clarity, and how does that actually come to life? How does it actually get implemented into marketing and messaging and people and processes, and why does this part matter? Because until then, it's hard to see how it all comes to life. But once you see it implemented, and that was part of my experience over the last 15 years, is not only going through this clarity process for myself and for other businesses, but I also have had the opportunity to bring this to life, like to see this alignment in people, processes, and messaging, and know what it takes to make that happen, to know what it takes to actually see it in your business, like implemented and the way that it has an impact. So the cost of like not having this clarity, I mean, it was distractions, it was detours, it was stalled growth, and just really not getting any traction with what we were doing or feeling like we were doing. It was wasted resources. I mean, I look back and I'm like, how much time and energy and money have I wasted doing things over and over and over and over again because I lacked this foundation from the beginning. It also, wasted resources as far as like one of the biggest areas that this comes into play for a business that they're going to see this struggle is it's going to be with marketing and messaging. So struggling with lead gen, struggling with what to put on your website, struggling with being able to convert leads into sales because you're not clear on who you're helping, you're not clear on what to say. You're not clear on what their pain points are, and being able to know that you can really solve their problems. You're also going to experience this firsthand in hiring. I think this hiring disengagement, culture, toxicity, drama, if you don't love every single person on your team, if there are people who are not living up to the standard that they need to be, or they are just really inciting some drama into your business that you're like, man, this is this is becoming a distraction. Like this is becoming a problem. Having the wrong people, either because they don't align or because they don't have the natural capacity to excel, then wrong hires are going to be a huge symptom of that. And then wrong hires end up leading to broken processes, and broken processes end up leading to a hurt customer experience. So not being able to deliver the experience that you want to, and that hurts your reputation, and it hurts, how you feel about your business and the success of it. So it really ends up coming into play. But those are the three big areas that you're going to see this lack of clarity. And most of us are going to be like, oh, well, it's a people issue. It's a sales issue. It's a marketing issue. I need to redo my website. I need to spend more money on an ad campaign. I need to fire that person and replace this other person. But if you don't have that foundational clarity first, then you might just continue to make the same mistakes over and over and over again. And you'll constantly be putting out the same fires instead of really getting to the root of it and understanding why you keep hiring that wrong person, or why your marketing isn't working, or why your lead gen isn't converting the way it should be. So we look at the root of it, and it starts with this clarity piece. And so in that, this clarity is really broken down into like three main sections. So what do you really need to clarify for your business to know, like, how do you know you're as clear as you need to be so that you can align your business and you can make the right decisions? So the first category is why you exist. It's your purpose and mission, and it's really the impact that you're trying to make with your business. So like how are you making a difference? So you're gonna have your brand purpose, which is beyond what you do. It's why you do it. It's why you exist beyond just like making money and being profitable. It's like, what compels you? Like what is this like passion inside of you that God really gave you to use your business to carry out? And then it's your mission. So more on a like tactical level is, what are you trying to accomplish like through the work that you're doing, through the products, through the services that you're providing? So this why you exist is the first one. The second one is going to be how you operate. And the third one is what you do. Simon Sinek talks about this in his book, Start With Why. He talks about this consistency between why, how, and what. He calls it the golden circle. And so within each of them, there are elements we need to define in order to have the level of clarity that we need. So into this second category of how you operate, that really consists of like your core values and your standards. So this is like who you are as a company. It's the like what you value. Like these are the foundational principles that guide your decision making, your behavior, and your company culture. It's your work style. This is like how work gets done within your company. It's the overall energy and vibe and experience of the workplace. It's the personality traits of the people who work in your company, because their characteristics, their traits are going to directly impact your culture and how you operate. So being clear on the types of character traits that your employees need to have will dramatically impact what you say in your recruiting process, what you're looking for in your interview process, and how you make your hiring decisions. And then even having non-negotiables, which are like clearly outlining the behaviors and traits that you're like, we will not tolerate these under any circumstances. And the more we can call this out, the more we can bring clarity to it and write it down. It's just the more clear we are, the more we hone in on things, the more tangible it becomes, the more intentional we become. And it's like what we think determines what we say determines what we do, and what we do determines like what actually happens in our life, right? But it all starts with what we think. And so the more clear we can be about what we think, it's going to dramatically impact what we end up doing, the decisions we end up making in our business, which leads us to this third category of what we do. So this is like your brand experience and customer promise and identity. And this breaks down into like your actual core offerings, like what are the key products and services that your company provides? Who are your ideal customers? So like who are you specifically trying to serve, and what are they experiencing? Like why them? Imagine yourself in their shoes. What are they going through? Why are they struggling? What do they value? Really breaking it down and understanding them on a demographic, psychographic level of who they are. And then their pain points, right? So it's like, what are the specific challenges and frustrations that they're facing? And what about how you operate makes you unique? Why would someone choose your company over somebody else's? And then even having that defined into a succinct statement. So a unique selling proposition, which is a statement that communicates like what you offer in a way that makes you unique. So this ends up being like a statement that goes in a lot of like, it's on your website and it's in your sales documents and it should be in your sales conversations. And you end up using this over and over and over again. And then being clear on your brand promise, which is like the experience and the expectations that you have for the outcome that you're delivering for your customers. And then your messaging pillars, which are the core themes and ideas that drive all communications. And all of these things, there's three main categories, but within them, there's each of these elements that are broken down. We have to have clear and specific answers for every single one. And then if you do that, if you define all of those things, there is no question as to what goes on your website. There is no question as to what you need to say in your marketing and who you're saying it to and what's going to resonate. There's no question about what goes in your sales process and who you're talking to and how you're going to like convert them from a lead into a customer. There's no question about who you're going to hire and how you're going to make sure that you're hiring the right person and how you're going to make sure that your operational processes are delivering the customer experience that you want to deliver. And this even is going to go into like your strategic planning of how do you decide how to move forward? What direction are you going to go in? Each of these elements comes into play. And I haven't been in a situation where there was something that was missing. Like over and over and over again, this has been refined over and over and over again to get down to the I would say the bare minimum, in a sense that like, what do you need? And these come into play in all of these different aspects, in all of these different processes. And if you have this clarity within this brand profile, we call it a brand profile, then I could take a business I've never met before. I've never been to their location. I've never met them. But if I have a brand profile that highlights all of these things, then I could create their website. I could create their marketing strategy. I could create their sales process. I could create their recruiting and hiring process, what interview questions they need to be asking, what they need to be looking for in candidates, what kind of operational experience they need to be making sure that they're providing, and even down to strategic planning. Like, what are the guiding filters that are going to say, like, is this a decision that makes sense for this business or not? Like, without ever having been with a business, if you have these things lined out, you could take this brand profile and you could run with it. You could do every single thing that you need to do, and it wouldn't be hard, because the beauty of this is you're not ever recreating the wheel. Brand clarity is about really understanding who your brand is, how God created you, and the purpose that he like intended for your business to live out. You just see it come into play in all of these different areas. And I think that's the biggest misconception that we have about business, is that your marketing is its own thing, and your hiring is its own thing, and your operations is its own thing. And these are all these different silos that every single one needs a new strategy every single time, or some of them don't even need strategy. We're just going to wing it each time. And I think the biggest aha moment I ever had was realizing that this one strategy, which I always just thought was like marketing strategy, marketing specific, until I saw that, wow, this is, all of these things are what determine who you hire. And it determines how you do your strategic planning, and how you set goals, and how you filter decisions. And this determines what goes into your marketing and your messaging and your sales. And then obviously, like, whatever you're promising, whatever you're saying, you have to be able to deliver on it. And in order to deliver on it, you have to have the right people on board. And in order to have the right people on board, you have to know who the right people are, and you have to like qualify them, and you have to have a good process for doing that, so that you're not making these poor decisions each time that are just going to hurt all of these other processes. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, it's one message. It's one foundation that we build everything in business on top of. And it's amazing. And so I've seen this be proven over and over and over again. Like, wow, like, this is the difference. Like, this messaging, this brand clarity is the crucial piece to everything that we do after that. So that is what is going to limit confusion. It's going to limit turnover. It's going to limit wasted time, and it's going to create the alignment. It's going to help you make better, if not great, decisions about hiring. And your people are really what are going to impact everything in your business. Like, who you hire is honestly, like, your people are your biggest asset. So if you can make really good decisions about who you hire, they really do drive everything else. So, like, just to wrap that all up, clarity is what eliminates confusion. It's going to drive better decisions. And it becomes the filter for everything you do in your business, from who you hire to how you market to how you serve your customers. So this was a lot, but this is just so important. I can't even stress this enough. Like, this is so important. Like I said, like, I know it's important because I have felt the pain of not having clarity in my business. And I have seen just the transformative effect it has, where once we have it, we can start to focus on everything else. So if today's episode resonated, don't miss the next episode on alignment, which is on how we actually take this clarity and we put it into practice with our people and our processes. And as always, you can learn more by visiting clearauthenticbrands.com. But that's all for this episode. I will see you in the next one.